So welcome back to Strange Stories with the Seeker and the Skeptic. I'm Brittany. I'm the Seeker.
And I guess that would make me the skeptic. I'm Jonathan.
So tonight we have a guest with us. Her name is Jessica. And we met a while back when we were both in very different places in our lives. Jessica is someone that I would consider to be a seeker, and she's been on a spiritual and healing journey for the last 4 years, which has helped her to get sober for the last 3.5 years. One of the things that we haven't shared with you guys is how we've gotten our guests. So I made a post on Facebook and Jonathan made a post on Reddit. And Jessica and I haven't really seen each other in person in a long time, but we've been following each other's journeys on social media. So I've been seeing what she's been up to and she's been seeing what I've been up to. So I'm really excited to talk to her today. So thank you so much for being with us, Jessica. How are you today?
Thank you for having me, guys. This is great. I'm super excited to be here and a little nervous, but very excited.
You got this, and we're excited to have you. So tell us a little bit about how you got started on your healing and spiritual journey.
Oh, gosh. So, the strangest thing, I think that is the strangest thing happened to me one day. My friend just asked if I wanted to go to a yoga class with her, and I wasn't really into yoga and I was not really feeling it, but I was also in a place in my life where I was trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone, try some new things. And so I agreed to go with her. And we show up for this yoga class, and it is not what is typically what I would have expected yoga to be. It's not physical posture yoga, what's referred to as asana. It was a Kriya yoga service, and there was Sanskrit chant, there was some meditation, there was a lot of talk about God and Yogananda. And I was like, oh, geez, where am I? What have I gotten myself into? It's quite strange. I don't think this is for me. And there was really no escape without being noticed. So I stayed through the whole thing. And my friends and I, when we were finished, everybody was just so kind and welcoming. They really wanted us to return, and it felt really good to be there. And so that little yoga mistake actually turned into about 3 years of me attending this Kriya yoga service and learning a whole lot about a yogic lifestyle. And that was really the beginning of my journey. Just a little oopsie.
I
And
love that.
here I am.
Yeah, it's like you couldn't have planned that out. Like you were guided there.
Definitely, I don't know, like God knew where I was supposed to be, and even my reluctance to be there couldn't stop it.
Right. So how has being on this yoga journey, how has that changed your life?
Well, I guess the biggest thing that I have taken from it is to just live in acceptance and gratitude. I've been through some things in life, and I drank for a couple of decades to escape some of those things. And just the whole lifestyle is just about balance and being and acceptance and starting from where you are. So that has just really helped me a lot. And some other things have happened along the way just to really push me in the right direction, other little accidental oopsies. And the more I just have faith and keep going with it, the better things seem to be. So it's just really changed me. I'm much more positive. Life is great. Even when bad things happen, I can somehow find some good in them, and it's just a whole different life.
Yeah, it sounds like a whole different mindset.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Most definitely is. Having that mindfulness to notice all those little things to be grateful for. You get caught up in life and you start doing the things, and this thing's next and that thing's next and this thing's next, and one of those things is going to bring me happiness, but nobody ever, not nobody, but people
Mm.
have a tougher time to just sit where they are and feel gratitude.
Mhm.
So
I love
learning to have that.
I love that because you're basically saying like you have to sit with all the feelings, you have to sit with all the experiences. Obviously we want to feel joy and love and all of those good feelings, but it sounds like your yoga practice and mindfulness journey has kind of helped you with just being.
Yes, it most definitely has. It's been a wonderful journey.
That's awesome. What would you attribute the oopsies to that you said have happened, on your path?
So, aside from just showing up at some strange not yoga practice, so we talked about I drank for a long time. Alcohol was my buddy. For 2 decades, it was pretty regular in my life. And toward the last 10 or 15 years, it was just something I never could have imagined was not going to be a part of my life. Grew up around it, it had been a part of my life for a long time, could not have imagined that it would not be a part of my life at some time. And I found myself in a position where this yogic lifestyle started to show me that I was not my best self with all of this alcohol. And I really didn't know what to do with that. And so I prayed for God to take it away from me, to that, I relinquish that power. They talk about it in AA, and you say the serenity prayer, and to give that power to God. And I just think it's so amazing that I was able to just one day pray to God to take it away and go to an AA meeting that day and never turn back from that. I have
Wow.
not had a single drink since then. I've prayed every night for, like, thank you, God, for another day sober. And it just hasn't even been hard, which boggles my whole mind.
That's amazing. I had a similar experience when I got into Reiki. Not that I was ever an alcoholic, but I like to drink, you know, just as much as the next person. And as soon as I started my Reiki training, I had no interest in it whatsoever anymore. And I'll have maybe a glass of wine here and there, like once or twice a year, but that's it. And so it's interesting that once you're kind of opening yourself up more to like the spiritual, that thing falls away.
Yes. Yes. It's a beautiful thing.
So by way of context, whenever you that happened and you said, hey, I want to give this to God or whatever you want to call it, and I want to let this go. Was that before or after you had that experience with the yoga people?
That was about a year into my yoga journey and
Okay.
learning. I was doing a lot of physical yoga, a lot of meditation at that point, and starting to notice that I just was not my best self. I was irritable and frustrated and anxious. Um, I had a lot of fear and anxiety as a girl, just getting through the world, just to be myself. And this yoga as a lifestyle has really, really helped me to just balance that out and be okay with it. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing out there. I'm supposed to be me.
Absolutely. But so that style of yoga that you're practicing, you talk about, it is more um, the spiritual part of it. Does it also incorporate the poses, or is it just more the lifestyle of being mindful and understanding the universe better?
I do physical yoga a lot at home, almost daily, and then I do go to a physical yoga practice, but mostly I would say that it is just the meditation and taking that time to go within, to have that quiet and that balance. And I have also just done a lot of reading, um, just different books that have taught me some different perspectives on the whole yogic lifestyle, balance with how you eat and how you sleep and how you breathe, and just having that time to go within and have, I keep using the word balance, but just that balance in
Yeah,
all
I mean,
places in your life.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Is there a specific type of meditation that you practice mostly?
At first, I did a lot of chanting. Chanting as meditation. There's a lot of different little short chants, Sanskrit chants that you can say, like Om Namah Shivaya. And that helped for when I was having a hard time sitting still for long periods of time, just to have that quiet, or to listen to even meditation music while I'm trying to sit quietly. But now I find that at this point, I am able to just sit wherever I am. Sometimes, even when there's a lot of commotion, I can sit and just close my eyes and go within. It's not as hard as it used to be. With lots of practice, I suppose that happens.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
seem
You've
like that in
trained
the
your
beginning.
brain.
Yes, I have trained my
Yeah.
brain.
That's great.
That's awesome. So you shared with us a story about a vision that you had that had a very profound effect on somebody else. So can you tell us that story?
Yes, I would love to. So, when I do meditate and things are very balanced, which is not always, but I have had some visions and just feelings, very strong feelings, and once before, even like a whole body vibration, which was a little concerning because I didn't know what was happening at the time. But this one time that I would like to tell the story about, I was sitting to meditate, and I was thinking about a family friend. My best friend growing up had just a year before lost her brother. Um, and her mom obviously were still quite sad about that. And they were just in my heart and on my mind. And I'm sitting down to meditate, and I go to that place within the quiet space, and suddenly I see Andrew, who is my friend's brother, and he is in the kitchen of their childhood home, and he's handing me a tray of deviled eggs, and he's laughing, and he's telling me to give these to his mother. And I'm thinking, that's weird. Why would I have that vision? What does
Yeah.
this mean? And so I called my friend, and I was just telling her, so this happened to me, and I'm just really unsure if it's anything worth sharing. But I had been reading this book also called Signs, written by a psychic medium. And she was telling stories about how even if she sees something that just makes absolutely no sense to her, could seem completely bonkers, it could mean something to somebody else. So I tell her the story, and she says that her mom is not feeling well. She's been in the hospital, and that I should reach out to her, and just let her know the whole story. And, even if it just seems bonkers, hearing from me would make her feel better anyways. So I reached out, and I tell her, and we're laughing hysterically because it turns out that his mom doesn't even like deviled eggs. So probably why he was laughing hysterically while showing me to give them to her. And she was having trouble. She was in the hospital having tummy troubles. And so we decided, since she doesn't like deviled eggs, I had said we should make them and eat them together. Why? I don't know. And since she didn't like them, she made an egg and cheese sandwich as a runner up. And she, the next day, called me just like laughing and crying because she was feeling 100% better. And she just couldn't believe that this was the case after nearly a week in the hospital and just feeling so miserable. And just having that, she felt like having that connection to her son as well was just a miracle. And so that silly bonkers vision that I maybe wouldn't have shared if I didn't read that book or think of something else, and it just made all the difference. And so that just led me to feel much stronger about my own intuitions and to just go with it.
Yeah. I mean, everything that lined up for that to happen, that you're in meditation, you're holding them in your heart, you've read that book, so you're trusting your intuition, it's like to see the progression and then the amazing impact of,
Yeah. For everything to all line up like that,
Yeah.
it just seems so wild, but it happened and it was great.
Excellent.
yeah.
It was a pretty wild experience. It still seems like telling a story, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it all worked out that way.
Right. But it's a real thing. Yeah. Have there been any other intuitions like since then that you have like followed because you're like, okay, I can trust this now?
Well, when I was talking about my meditation where I had the full body experience, that meditation, I was just going through a tough time in a relationship. It was a long relationship. It wasn't a great relationship. And I was just really struggling, trying to figure out like what the right path forward was. And I decided to meditate on it. And I I started at the root chakra and I meditated all the way up my chakras. And when I had gotten to my solar plexus chakra, my ego, my will, my confidence, like it just felt like it burst inside of me. My whole body got warm and started to vibrate. It was an uncanny feeling that made me almost feel nervous because I didn't know what was happening to me. But I, like, after the fact, I mean, I broke down in tears right away and my whole body reacted to this meditation. And then I just knew, I just had this inner knowing about what I had to do. And I stuck with it no matter how hard that knowing was. And I never looked back. And that really worked out for me too.
Yeah.
Do
We
you
had a-
feel that that came from inside of you or from another source, or is it the same thing? Like, am I making a difference where there is none? What do you think about that?
I feel like it came from inside of me. That was my own knowing, like it was always there and I wasn't trusting it. And just to go within and be in it, ask myself, and I'm not really sure because at the time I really didn't know what the answer was. And then just that experience alone and just gave me this knowing and this confidence to move forward that like this relationship was not it. And I had to stick with that and know that. And no matter how hard it got, keep going with that.
Mhm. It sounds like from the story you told us, it's like that inner knowing was there, but there was a blockage and you had to kind of like burst through the blockage in your solar plexus to kind of let it come through. Does that resonate with you?
I totally believe that. I think that fear and anxiety that I was having for so long with just being myself and not trusting my own judgments and not trusting that I was good enough or smart enough or whatever enough to speak my mind or make my own decisions or whatever it was. I mean, I really I am enough and I have those things. And I guess I was able to break through that blockage. I don't remember what it was that I was chanting while I was oming and meditating through the chakras, but maybe that had something to do with it as well. I've never once since that experience had a full body vibrational experience like that.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the higher powers needed me to speed it up.
Yeah. Get in alignment.
So one of the things that you mentioned in the short questionnaire you returned for us is that your initial upbringing when you were a kid, you had been kind of brought up Catholic, and I'm curious because I come from more of a evangelical Christianity childhood. My father was a preacher, and I am very, very, very far from any of those things now. And so I'm always curious when someone has those kind of, that kind of upbringing of that's a very specific religion and very specific ideas about things. How have these experiences with understanding yourself better and going through and going through these types of experiences, how has that changed how you view the world at large in that context? Do you feel like these things are opposed to each other? Do you think that they work together? What's your take on that?
So, yes, when I was young, I was raised Catholic, Roman Catholic. Most of my family is very traditional Italian and Catholic. And we went to church on Sundays, and I would have debates at the dining room table with my grandfather, who's very, very religious. There is one God and one true God, and okie dokie. There's no telling him otherwise. And I was like, why? How? I need facts. Tell me, this doesn't make sense. And he was just telling me, well, you have to have faith. I'm like, yeah, okay. But I'm not buying it. And just being in church never felt right. I was baptized, made my first communion, made my confirmation. Remember standing up on the podium when I made my confirmation, and the priest or the deacon or whoever important dude is up there and asking, if you don't feel like you're ready to accept God into your heart, you can step down now. And I was just like, you don't know my grandma.
You think I can?
I will be dead.
So like I did all the things, but it just never resonated with me. And then when I started to learn more about the yogic lifestyle and Hindu deities and Buddhism and just reading more into other religions, now I've shifted my belief where I wasn't religious at all, had never even raised my son to be religious. And now suddenly I'm always talking about God and energy, and he thinks I'm nuts. And now I just feel like everything is God. All energy is God. The beautiful sunshine and the beautiful flowers and all of our friends and family, just everything is made up of energy, and that is all God to me. That's my belief.
Yeah, it sounds like a oneness kind of belief.
Yes.
We are all one. We are all connected from the same source. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Do you remember what about Catholicism growing up just really didn't resonate with you? Was there anything specifically, or just the whole thing?
I guess if I had to pick out something specific, it would be mostly the fact that any religion that says that there's only one way just confuses me. It doesn't seem, that's just not natural.
Yeah.
And then there was like the sit down, stand up, kneel, repeat after me. And that felt really not right to me either. Like I was doing it like a machine, not
Mhm.
like I had a love for God.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff always kind of struck me as programming myself. A lot of the things you're talking about having experienced, how those conversations with your grandfather are very similar to the conversations I had with my dad as a kid. I totally get what you're saying on that.
Yeah, those were tough conversations to have.
For sure. Definitely, they are very difficult conversations to have, but it's wonderful that you've been able to expand beyond what you grew up with and just found your own way, your own belief system, what feels right and resonates for you. And there's people where, like my parents are both Catholic, and that very much speaks to them and resonates for them. So that is right for them, but it's not right for me, and it's not right for you.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody has the free will and the power to practice what brings them joy and what resonates with them. And my view on that is really, if you have a love for whatever God or higher power, and you're living this life with kindness to yourself and others and good intentions, like, I can't ask for anything more than that. You believe what you want to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep. Just do no harm.
Yes.
Yeah.
In yoga, the yamas and the niyamas, the very first two are my favorite. It's ahimsa and satya. And it means ahimsa is kindness to yourself and others, and satya is honesty or truth. And when Ram Dass met his guru in India, he asked what the way was, how do I find the way to God? And his guru just told him, love everyone and tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the first two rules.
Yep. What a world we would live in if everybody could live like that.
It would be nice.
It would be very nice.
I'm trying to shine this light as far as possible so we can make it happen.
Absolutely. And you're doing it. You're absolutely.
You are too, Brittany.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying. For sure. What would you say, are your beliefs about the afterlife? So you had this connection with somebody who has passed on from the physical. What do you believe about that?
I used to be super intrigued by psychic mediums. I used to sit on the couch with my grandma and watch that psychic medium, John Edwards, and be like, oh.
Yep.
Now he makes me do less wowing. But anyway, that's not the point. I think now that everybody has the ability to communicate with people who have passed, that you really just have to ask them to come to you. When I was reading that book, that signs book, I didn't really believe it. I was like, this is baloney. I'm not going to be able to talk to any of my people. And it said, just ask them to come to you, ask for something. And so I was like, okay, it's stormy out. There's, I don't know, a hurricane rolling through. And I was like, bring me a star. And I went outside to smoke a cigarette because sometimes I do that. It's bad and it's not good for Reiki. Anyways, I'm standing out there smoking this cigarette and I'm looking up in the sky like, yeah, right. And I take a drag of a cigarette and I exhale and there is a star in smoke.
Oh, wow.
It
Wow.
was just a smoke-shaped star. It came
that's
to
wild.
me.
It did.
It was wild. And just things like that have been happening to me. Just have to ask and believe and no, I'm not really sure what to tell you.
And be open to it, and be look, open to the signs. And it didn't come exactly in the form that you thought it was going to come in, but it came.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another thing. I was looking up in the sky and that was kind of a lesson for me that you got to open your eyes because what you ask for could be right in front of you, but you're not looking everywhere. You're not looking in the right place. So I just being open to these things has really shown me an awful lot, and it's been a beautiful thing, and my life has only grown just more joyful and abundant since opening myself up to it.
Mhm. I
Excellent.
definitely agree with you. I think that anybody could be psychic. I think everybody is psychic to a certain degree. Some people are maybe born a little bit more open than others, but just on my own, spiritual journey, I have become more psychic, because I'm raising my level of consciousness. I'm changing my vibration. So I'm more able to, I don't know,
In
like maybe
tune.
more in tune. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So I definitely agree with you that it's just being open and then doing the things to help open you up.
I think that I'm more partial to reincarnation at this point too.
Mm.
I think there was a question about what I feel happens in the afterlife. Um, that makes the most sense to me. If we're all energy and the energy doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I do believe that we each have a soul. So I think that reincarnation is where it's at in my mind at this time. And I reserve the right to change things as I go along.
As
I
you
love
should.
I love that. Absolutely. You should, because what we know, what we experience, it is always changing, so it's like what I believe today may not be the same thing I believe tomorrow, but doesn't mean that today it wasn't true.
You
A-
got it.
Anyone whose opinions don't change over time is either hanging on to something they shouldn't be or not paying attention.
Mhm.
And just for context within the podcast, the book Signs that she has mentioned a few times, I believe is Signs, the Secret Language of the Universe by psychic medium Laura Lynn Jackson. Just because anyone's interested or curious, whenever people mention books on the podcast, we're going to endeavor to explain what they are, just if you want to follow along at home.
Yeah, it was a great book. It was
Mhm.
recommended to me by my Reiki practitioner and really did open some doors for me.
As someone who spent about 2 decades drinking myself, and in my context, it was more to filter out the high strangeness that always seems to follow me around. I would say good job on getting where you are and staying there. That's a real accomplishment, and you should be proud of yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's amazing to be able to just, go from drinking one day to just done.
Yeah. I mean, I was
Incredible.
like always had a box of wine, a case of White Claw, and some vodka in the freezer. Like there was multiple things on hand, and
Yeah.
then nothing. Magic.
Magic.
Excellent.
Magic is right.
What would you say is different about your life now that you're sober?
Oh gosh, I'm better to myself. I mean, people talk about affirmations and just saying, I am beautiful, I am kind, I am worthy. I am just feeling good about yourself. And so just being good to myself is one thing that has made a huge difference in my life. But I also would have to say that being a better mom has truly made
Mm.
a huge difference in my life. My son is great. He's a teenage boy. He reads a lot of books. He brings me a lot of joy. But when I was drinking, I just wasn't as attentive as I
Mhm.
am now. And now we have a really great relationship, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
Awesome.
That is awesome. You're more present. You have a mindfulness practice, but being sober, you can really just be there in the moment.
Yes. Be here now.
Yes. Yes to Ram Dass. We love Ram Dass. I don't know if Jonathan knows who Ram Dass is, but
What?
I don't know
Ramdas
if
is
it's
my
possible not
homeboy.
to know who that is.
okay,
I
well.
think he's pretty ubiquitous in the zeitgeist of the time, I think.
I like to bring up Ram Dass, and then when people have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll be like, Richard Alpert and Tim Leary, and then they get on board. Like, oh,
Yeah,
we're going to
yeah.
talk about psychedelics. I know where you're at.
Context is key.
It's a whole story. It's a good one.
It is a good one.
Well, I mean, if you've ever seen memes, then you know who that is, even if you don't know the name, because so many things that Ramdas said have been translated into so many memes. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of like the pervasive part of memes within within our culture, and how different thought processes have come through is really interesting to me personally.
My favorite thing that he talks about is when he says that we should treat people like trees.
I love that one
out
too.
into the forest, and all the trees are crooked and reaching for the light and looking all different. We don't, point out the trees and point out their differences. They're just trees, and we got to treat people just like that.
I love that.
Love them just the way they are.
My favorite is if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family.
That's a good one too. I posted that to social media when I visited my grandma at Thanksgiving.
Yep.
I don't know, guys. I mean, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you're all gonna put out there in the world for us to listen to and learn from. And I'm so excited that I get to be a part of it. And this is great.
Thank you so much for coming on. I think this has been a very awesome conversation. It's
Absolutely.
good to see you and see how awesome and amazing you're doing. So yeah, we just really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much for being here. If you have a strange story you want to share with us, email us at seekerandskeptic@gmail.com. We look forward to talking to you soon.